Hello and welcome to a brand new video. Today we are going to be talking about the drivers ahead of the 2017 Formula One season. So after my video about the structure of Formula One and looking to see how Formula One can be improved in the organisation of the weekend, and specifically in regard to Ross Brawn's proposal of a non-championship race, we are now going to look at the drivers for the season and what we can do with the reserve drivers, because just spent about 10 minutes, took quite a long time actually, because Mercedes especially don't like to say who their reserve driver is, and I kind of had to guess with Sauber because I couldn't find it anywhere. I'm going to kind of give a kind of proposition of what to do with the reserve drivers, the current drivers, and how I'd rank all the drivers, and then potentially who we could see popping up next year. Just kind of give some early indications, something I always like to do very early on. So, first of all, let's start off with looking at the world's champions, Mercedes. Obviously, they had to have a bit of a surprise entry into the team just a month or so ago, with Valtteri Bottas coming on board to join triple world champion Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, Rosberg champion retired. That was a surprise for everyone, especially those within the Mercedes team themselves. What do I think of the line? Well, it is what you need really in that kind of team. It's a more Ferrari mentality. This might sound a little bit harsh on Bottas, but I think Hamilton should be number one in the team. Although, having said that, Bottas is very quick. If we cast our minds back to 2014, obviously seems like quite a long time ago, he put in some very impressive drives. Second at the British Grand Prix, he was second at the German Grand Prix, and he could have potentially won the Austrian Grand Prix if Williams hadn't fucked up their strategy. But and also in 2015, he could have won the British Grand Prix there as well if Williams had allowed him to pass Massa on the second lap. But they weren't going to get Massa out of the way, so then things started to get a little more even. Then we had some rain, etc. So we'll see how Bottas goes, but he did set the fastest lap in testing today, so that should bode well. Obviously, the other side of the garage, Hamilton is a proven quantity, a treble world champion, as I've said. Not my favourite driver on the grid, not gonna lie. His personality is something I don't particularly approve of, and the way he conducts himself out of the car. But inside the car, his speed is undeniable, and he gets the job done more times than not. But we'll see. These new regulations, it could bring something spicy to the party. It could potentially disrupt Lewis's style and demeanour, and maybe maybe require a slightly different approach that he doesn't quite possess as well as Bottas. But we'll have to see how it goes. But I imagine to begin with, Hamilton should have the edge. But we'll see what happens come Belgium. That's around that kind of time. I see, possibly earlier, but certainly in the second half of the year, you're going to see Bottas, I reckon, starting to really annoy Lewis. Red Bull, in my opinion, the best lineup on the grid. Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo. I love both of them, especially Daniel. They should have a great car this year. It's very much aero regs, so this is going to play into their hands. We'll see how they go to begin with. The car doesn't look the fastest out the blocks, but I think over the course of the year we're going to see some pretty ingenious solutions coming from the Adrian Newey Boffins back at Red Bull. So we'll see what they come up with, but the drivers certainly have the mettle. Always remember some of the moves Verstappen pulled the first year with Toro Rosso around the outside of NASA. Blanchimon, Ricciardo's made some pretty impressive moves in his time as well. Turn 8, I think it was, at China this year on Hamilton. Just to name one, through Nakum, on Vettel. He tried to make a pass on the exit of the Novel chicane after he had that win taken away from him. But um, Red Bull very much have the top driver lineup if you had to kind of rank them. Um, so I do that throughout. Oops, I've already kind of messed that up. So Hamilton, I'd probably give him 4 stars. Bottas 3 stars. And for the Red Bull drivers 2 5 stars. Ferrari, Vettel and Raikkonen kind of keeping that consolidation, and it seems to be working so far. Testing has gone pretty well for Ferrari. It's been low key, which is actually very good. Ferrari haven't come out and say we're going to win the World Championship or anything stupid like that the president basically said last year, and they didn't get a win. So they've kept it low key. They've done some local replacements with people like James Allison leaving the team. So hopefully it works. Hopefully Ferrari can get back to winning ways, because as was brought to my attention, they haven't won a Constructors' Championship for 9 years, and they haven't won a Drivers' Championship for 10 years. So Ferrari really need to be in the championship fight this year, and they have 2 pretty star drivers to do that. Vettel's mind was a bit washed like in 2014 last season, so hopefully he can have a nice reset and really start to make progress. Vettel obviously a 5-star driver. As for Kimi, he had a great second half of last season, but that's obviously when you just compare him to Sebastian. We'll see how he starts the year, but Kimi for me is a 3-star driver. Then we move to Force India. They have Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon. Checo, one of the best drivers in Formula 1 in terms of his consistency, his tyre wear, and being able to extract the maximum from the package as an overall rounder. He's grabbed some very surprise podiums in recent years with Force India. Obviously, last year he got 2 podiums in Monaco and Baku, and the year before that got podium at Sochi, Bahrain. He's been on the podium a few times there. So, and obviously back in the Sauber days, almost got the win, famously in Malaysia 2012. So, Perez is a very solid driver for them, and I think, to be honest, they were very lucky he didn't kind of get in on that Mercedes drive action, and even before that, kind of signing with someone like Renault would have seemed a likely outcome for someone of Perez's stature, but he turned that down and wanted some just consistency into these new regulations, which is obviously understandable, but we'll see how that goes with him. 4-star driver for sure. As for Esteban Ocon, he's still learning, so obviously I'm going to rank him slightly lower, but his junior Formula CV, I was just trying to think of the word, is absolutely exemplary. Beat Max Verstappen to the 2015 Formula 3 Championship by almost 100 points, and then he won the GP3 Championship in 2016 despite only picking up 1 victory. Absolute. Sorry, I meant 2014 and 2015. Sorry, 2014 F3 and 2015 GP3. 2016, obviously, last year did half the year with Mana and the first half of the year on successful DTM campaign. But completely different kettle of fish, touring cars compared to F1. So but 2-star driver. And next, Williams, Massa. Old veteran now, could have won, should have won really, the 2008 Formula 1 World Championship. Has had some highs and lows in his career, possibly one of the luckiest men alive, but at the same time, as I say, that disappointment in 2008, and was clearly number 2 to Schumacher and most famously Fernando Alonso. So he's been kind of the on level peggings or even slightly top dog at Williams. So He's now back in that kind of position. Definitely top dog this year. Definitely the one who's going to be picking up the points. So we'll have to see how he goes. 3 stars. Lance Stroll, yes, he won last year's Formula 3 Championship, but just look. Type into Google Formula 3 Race 1 Belgium 2015. I think it's about lap 3 or lap 4. Lance Stroll. You can see why Ferrari ditched him from the Young Driver program, but we'll see how Williams gets on with him. He has crashed many times already, about 4 times in 2 days last week in testing. It hasn't gone swimmingly. I don't want to make the Maldonado comparisons just yet, but we'll have to see how he goes. The speed's there. Yes, he has speed. But does he have consistency? Does he have the mental strength of Grosjean, or does he have the mental inability of Pastor? Time will tell. Next team, McLaren. One of the best driver lineups on the grid, along with the likes of Red Bull, Mercedes, Fernando Alonso, the best driver on the grid in my opinion. Absolutely exemplary. Extracts 110% out of the machinery and is just brilliant. Fast in qualifying, consistent in the race, pushes all the time, and he is one of the fittest drivers also on the grid. His training is relentless. An absolute samurai. 5.5 stars for him. Well, yeah, for definitely a 5-star driver. And as for Stoffel, if I'm saying that Esteban Ocon has a pretty good single-seater career, then Stoffel Vandoorne is something else. He was 4th place in Super Formula last year, almost won the championship. He probably would have won the championship if he didn't sit in for Fernando Alonso in Bahrain. Then obviously 2016 won the GP2 championship with 4 or 5 rounds to go. Then 2015 he was 2nd in the GP2 championship. 2014 he was 2nd in the World Series by Renault championship. Then the year before that he won the Formula Renault 2 Litre championship. Absolutely exemplary. Unbelievable. So, 4-star driver, and he hasn't even done a Grand Prix yet, in my opinion. Then moving down, Toro Rosso. They've kept the driver lineup of Danny Kvyat and Carlos Sainz Jr. Sainz Jr., in my opinion, Carlos Sainz and Danny Kvyat are in a bit of a weird position. As for Danny Kvyat, I don't see him doing another year in Toro Rosso, and the same can be said for Carlos Sainz, but for 2 very different reasons. Sorry, excuse me. In regard to Danny Kvyat, that's because he didn't deserve it. Because last year it was terrible, and with the likes of Pierre Gasly, Nico Carey, Richard Verschoor, Dan Ticknam, all coming through very nicely, there's just not going to be the space there. And even Sergio Sette Camara, they can dive into him as well. Although he's technically been ditched from the programme, he's still very much part of the Red Bull team. He doesn't quite deserve it, because the amount of mistakes he made last year, the amount of stupid things he did, and his inability to extract anything out of the car compared to what Carlos was doing, just makes you question his ability behind the wheel. And then for Carlos, he's too good. And with Red Bull having the Ricciardo Verstappen lineup locked down for a few years now, he's got to be searching elsewhere. I think he could perhaps eye up, depending on who's fast, Red Bull, or if Fernando's fed up, McLaren, something like that. So we'll have to see what comes around. But if Palmer doesn't perform this year, I wouldn't be surprised if Carlos Sainz goes to Renault for 2018. But we'll have to see. Ranking those drivers, pretty simple. Carlos Sainz, give him 3.5 stars. Danny Kvyat, 1 star. Next, Haas. Roman Grosjean, at the start of his career, very much a reckless driver and couldn't quite sort his head out. But then 2013, he started to sort his head out and started to sort out his mindset and became a very good, decent driver. And towards the end of the season, he was like the only one who could touch the Red Bulls. So yeah, Roman in 2013 grew enormously, really grew an absolute ton. And then he's now with Haas in a very nice place. And yeah, we'll have to see how he goes, how Haas can progress. Their car looks very nice, and I think they're looking next best after Williams, and I think they could be battling the Force Indias at the start of the season. So we'll have to see how he goes. Alongside Kevin Magnussen, Haas have a very good lineup, actually. A bit too good for their car, but you know. They should have another solid year. I expect them to get the best results like last year at the beginning, as then the other teams start to outcompete with their better resources. But Haas now starts with better handling. If they can get these brake problems sorted out, then hopefully they can really be making the inroads that they need to. 4 stars for Grosjean and 3 stars, I'd say, for Kevin. He's been a bit inconsistent at times. Obviously, McLaren was a bit up and down for him that season. Then 2016 with Renault. Clearly number 1 in the team, but just feel that Renault didn't have the confidence in him. And now here he is at Haas. Definitely, he needed to leave the Renault. If Renault weren't confident in his capabilities, then obviously it wasn't the right team, was it? So yeah, there we go. Talking of Renault, let's rate their drivers. Nico Hulkenberg, star signing. Nico's made the plunge, and I think it could be a decision that was worth making for him. You know, we'll have to see how it goes, but you know, having Nico in the team is really going to push the team forward. He's going to be a true team leader, and as I mentioned, if in 2018 they can sign another decentish to upper class quality driver, then they could be looking pretty good and balance some podiums in 2018. Palmer, yeah, he got 1 point finish. He finished 10th in Malaysia. That was his best result all last season. Threw away about 8th place in Hungary. He was very up and down. So we'll have to see how he goes. It's going to be a hard test for him against Hulkenberg. 2 star for Palmer, 4 star for Hulkenberg. And I think it's just Sauber now, isn't it? Yep, Sauber, Marcus Ericsson and Pascal Wehrlein. So Wehrlein, the main reason why he didn't get the Force India drive, despite his speed, despite his ability behind the wheel, which is very apparent, is his attitude. And his attitude is part of the package as a driver. And if you don't have good attitude, then you're not going to be world champion. So for that reason, Pascal, you're getting a 3 star. As for Marcus Ericsson, he's been an okay average driver. You know, he was better than Nasser last year. I would perhaps suggest otherwise in 2015, although Nasser was the one with the points. So I'd say another 2.5 to 3 stars for Marcus Ericsson. Now, let's get into the bit of the video where we talk about the reserve drivers and their role. So, what I'd like to propose for the drivers going forward is for the reserve drivers for it being a necessity for the reserve drivers to compete in one of, if you didn't watch my other video, I talked that there should just be 1 practice session in Formula 1. And also to make it a necessity that the reserve driver has a go in at least 1 practice session throughout the course of the season. I would just like to add that. And also when it comes to these non-championship races, the teams can either have it in 2 ways. They can have their 2 cars there, full race team, full bang, for trying out new structures and new things, or they can have the test drivers, or they can do both. This is how I would propose it. In the summer, the reserve drivers go out and they test, I don't know, a circuit like Estoril, Magny-Cours, Donington Park, the Nürburgring, Moscow Raceway, Jerez, just trying to think off the top, Imola, places like that, European venues. And then at the end of the season, after the season finale, Brazil or Abu Dhabi, then the drivers, they also do another non-championship race on the Monday, which are both broadcast, so we get the sponsors, we get the lot. That's broadcast on a Monday, kind of a bonus for the Formula One fan just before the season ends. And they put what was decided following the non-championship race in the summer into practice in the winter, and everything that works, they then have a meeting in the pending weeks just before Christmas, and then after Christmas they publish what the FIA are having installed. So therefore you're bringing more young drivers into the operation, and obviously if you have my Ross Brawn Cup idea, potentially, you'll see some of those drivers competing anyway in Formula 1. So you'll be like, oh yeah, so they're just getting more valuable experiences, because obviously part of the Ross Brawn Cup is the fact they don't actually interfere with the championship, but you get more cars on the grid and you get more young drivers. So that will see the likes of George Russell for Mercedes, Antonio Giovinazzi for Ferrari, Pierre Gasly for Red Bull, Alfonso Celis for Force India, Paul di Resta for Williams, although I don't quite know why he's still knocking around, the Matsushita or Turvey for McLaren, Carey or Verschoor for Toro Rosso, Ferrucci for Haas, Sorokin or Rowland for Renault, or Leclerc or Calderon for Sauber. So those are just a few ideas, ranking all the drivers. Should be an exciting season of Formula One, and hopefully we can kind of get a bit of a closer grid this year. Next year, I'm hoping that we can have more young drivers. Like Gasly, I hope definitely should be in the Toro Rosso for next year. We'll have to see what happens in regard to Palmer at Renault. Will Alonso like the cars? I feel that Fernando is starting to get a bit tiresome, and I'm as well. Fernando having complete rubbish to drive around like a skip, but we'll see. He could make. I imagine he'll go to WEC for next year because he wants to win Le Mans. That's something that Fernando wants to do. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. But that's kind of it. And the next one will be on some tracks and some perhaps some revised changes to the calendar that could be coming up in light of Liberty Media coming to the frame. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.